day. Let's get the thoughts of the writer, broadcaster and commentator Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, appreciate your time. I mean, first Gary Lineker, now Dawn French. Do these celebs never learn?
Good morning. I do think it's depressing when we see these celebrity voices speaking in this way about what's going on in Gaza and the war there that Israel's engaged in. On the one hand, I think they ought to know better. They really should think hard about putting out these sorts of messages. Her weird, mocking baby voice sort of suggesting that Israel effectively had no case after the slaughter, rape, murder and kidnapping of so many of its civilians and citizens on October the 7th, 2023, and then the 7 or 8 front war that it's been engaged in since then, backed by the tyrannical regime of Iran. Well, it just showed maybe a complete ignorance of what's going on in the region, or maybe that she doesn't care at all. And couple that with the fact that there's been rising anti-Semitism around the globe, spurred on by exactly this sort of behaviour. I think she really should have known better. She does regret it. She took it down and she made quite a fulsome apology, I must say, which, as these sorts of apologies go, I've read a few in my time now, sadly, it did look more convincing than some. But you know what? It's a little bit too little, too late. It really does show what she really meant. She put out that video, she planned it, she filmed it. Who knows how many takes it took her? Who knows how long she spent sitting there thinking about the words she'd use and the way she'd deliver it? She is a performer. She's a comedian. So she wanted to make it funny. She is somebody that was making a joke out of this extremely grave situation, who chose to put it out, who reviewed it, who published it on X, and who then, when the backlash showed her it was unacceptable, decided to remove it and apologise.
You mentioned her apology, and I think you're right to say it is pretty fulsome. I'll just read you part of it. She said that in an effort to convey an important point, she had used a tone that she had previously used on social media. She said she'd clumsily used a mocking tone. My intention was never to mock or dismiss or diminish the horror of what happened on the 7th of October and what continues to unfold from that brutal, unthinkable, unforgivable, savage attack. She said her intention had been to, and I quote, mock and point the finger of shame at the behaviour of the cruel leaders on all sides of this atrocious war. They were my target, but I clearly failed to do that, and that's on me. I apologise unreservedly, and I'm particularly sorry that my disgust at Hamas didn't figure. It appeared one-sided, and that is wrong. Clearly, as you say, you know, in comparison to previous apologies from celebrities who've got into similar issues, that is quite fulsome. Do you think it's a genuine apology, or do you think this is something where maybe her press team have gone onto her and gone, Dawn, come on, do you need to do this?
You know what? I don't really care. Probably a bit of both. Who knows? It isn't the Jeremy Corbyn formula. Apology if I caused any offence. I'm against anti-Semitism and all other kinds of forms of racism. But I think that it doesn't matter. You know, she clumsily used a mocking tone. I don't think so. She planned to use a mocking tone. She rehearsed her mocking tone. It's a mocking tone she says she's used in other videos. It's a format she said she's used before. She knew exactly what she was doing. Dawn French, you knew what you were doing. You didn't clumsily forget to mock Hamas. You chose not to mock Hamas. You made the video. We've all made videos. You watched it back. You chose to broadcast that video, which deliberately mocked the Israeli position in that voice, in that little baby voice. You deliberately chose not to do the same about the psychopathic, genocidal, jihadist murderers Israel is fighting, still keeping hostages in the Gaza Strip. Yesterday, the Israelis managed to get back the corpse, the remains of a Thai national who had been abducted, along with dozens of others, on the 7th of October. Dawn French didn't talk about any of those things. She chose a mocking tone. She chose to joke about it as a professional clown. She chose to focus her ire on the Jewish state of Israel. She chose to use her school mistress-like no, only directed towards the Israeli actions to protect itself. So I don't care who motivated her to publish this apology. I don't care if she means it. I hope she does mean it, and I hope that she's thought about this a lot since then. But at the end of the day, looking to Dawn French for your moral compass is clearly not a wise idea, or for advice on analysis of the Middle East and what's going on in that region after decades of war, with the Palestinians constantly rejecting a state of their own when they've been offered it at every opportunity. But simpletons like her just want to get a laugh and get clicks.
But Jonathan, a celebrity's not entitled to share their views on the war in Gaza. And if they want to be satirical, which is obviously what she was aiming to be, And okay, she's apologised and she said that she was clumsy for using that mocking tone. But if they want to be satirical about the war in Gaza, are they not allowed?
Anyone is allowed to share their moronic views in public, just like Dawn French did. And anyone is allowed to apologise if and when they realise their moronic views are offensive, bad, stupid, dangerous, moronic. I'm not stopping anybody expressing their views, but I'm commenting on them. I'm sharing my views now. You're sharing yours. Your callers will share their views. We're all allowed to share our views. But Dawn French did something very stupid that looked to many people to be deliberately so, deliberately insensitive, deliberately twisting a situation, deliberately demonstrating that maybe she doesn't understand that situation. Here's one bit of slack I'll cut her. People like Dawn French perhaps genuinely believe in the myths that they're spreading and the untruths that they're spreading. Dawn French said she was motivated, I think, by something to do with starving children. Now, this idea of starving children, that Israel is somehow uniquely trying to starve children in order to punish Palestinians, is a particularly vicious and nasty lie, in my opinion, that's being spread out. There has been a lot of debate over aid going into the Gaza Strip and whether or not it's been hijacked by Hamas, which then sells it, makes sure its own people doesn't get enough of it, and then uses the money in order to continue their war effort against Israel. Israel has tried to throttle that supply chain of funding to Hamas in order to be able to win that war, which in the long run will mean that the people in Gaza are suffering less because they will not be engaged in a long, protracted war. But Dawn French, of course, doesn't talk about any of that. That's not her area. Her area is mocking baby voices. But the idea that she was motivated by something like that is probably a result of the twisting and misrepresentation of what's going on there by bodies like the UN itself, and then by media outlets which choose to repeat very simplistic black and white slurs about the state of Israel, starving children. If there were really the level of hunger and starvation that is being suggested by some and that has clearly influenced her to make a video like that, we would be seeing many, 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 many more pieces of evidence of it. And those photos that we do see or reports that we do see are disputed. They are complex. They are difficult to understand. I'm not saying there's no suffering in Gaza. For sure, I'm not.
But that, in fairness, Jonathan, is a slightly separate point. This ongoing debate about the actions of Israel, and you're right to make some of the points you make. But as for the Dawn French thing, that's slightly separate in terms of the mocking.
Well, she chose that in her apology. She references that.
I know it completely. Jonathan, we're going to have to leave it there because we need to go to the news. But thank you so much, Jonathan Sacerdoti, there, writer and commentator.